2. Would everyone please rise and pledge the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Could we please have roll call?
Certainly. Mr. Abdallah, absent. Mr. Azar?
Here.
Mr. Fleming is absent. Mrs. Henderson?
Here.
Mrs. Karam?
Here.
Mr. Budensky?
Here.
Mr. Robeson?
Here.
And Mrs. Tierney is absent. Mr. Acker?
I'm here, and just to clarify, Mr. Abdallah had a death in his family. I believe Mr. Fleming's out of town, and Mrs. Tierney has quite a number of guests right now. So everyone's tied up, everyone's busy this summer. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Azar?
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson?
Yes.
Mrs. Karam?
Yes.
Mr. Budensky?
Yes.
Mr. Robeson?
Yes.
Mr. Acker?
Yes.
7 yes. 6 yes.
Okay. Dr. Safer, you're on.
Okay, I do not have what I would call an official presentation where I'm putting together a presentation behind me and talking everybody through. Certainly we'll be back at that when September comes and we are in full swing. However, I wanted to take a moment to speak about some feedback I've received and some conversations I've had in the community from some of our community members who have wondered about how we may utilize some of the funds that will be available to us vis-a-vis a grant that we've certainly read a lot about in the paper. For Abington Heights, it's approximately $150,000 for school safety and another $150,000 for mental health. And so I've got quite a few questions on that. So at this point, what I'd like to talk to you about is how we have had some discussions with our administrators, local law enforcement agencies, mental health agencies about how we may think about utilizing these funds. From the safety aspect, I've received a lot of feedback, and we are in ongoing conversations, but at minimum, what we're working on now is one, improving our communications not only within our buildings but across our buildings, which means that's going to mean new radios, repeaters, making sure that there are no dead spots in any of our buildings, that we provide as many of our staff that are supervising our students, whether that's in the cafeteria or out in the playground or with our principals or some of our lead teachers, with radios so that we can communicate. Communication is kind of that first line of defense, and we have to make sure that our students are safe and covered. Another area that we are looking at and looking to implement is a visitor and volunteer management system, which you see in many schools across the country and certainly within the county, where visitors come in and you have to put an ID into a scanner, and then you have an ID with your picture on it, so everybody knows that. And when you put this ID in, it also goes through a database so we can make sure that we're not getting anybody that is in any of the databases that are registered, for example, like the sexual offender database. This is a very quick way, an efficient way to make sure that we are monitoring who's in our building, and we're making sure that we are keeping those folks safe that are also monitoring who's coming into our building. We also have numerous volunteers and contractors. So this is another way that we can more effectively manage who's coming into our buildings. And then finally, when we think about that school safety, we are put some quotes out, and we are taking a look at video surveillance. So that's one thing that we have to ensure, that we have eyes all around our buildings and within our buildings. So for example, over the 4th, we had some vandalism at Newton Ransom, and we did not have a camera in place that if we did, we would have been able to provide local law enforcement with the information that they needed. And that's something that we can certainly take advantage of. On the mental health side, we already have a very robust program here. What I would say a K-12, not only pupil services, student services program, where we have social workers, we have counselors, we work with outside agencies very well. So at least some of our initial thoughts are we'll be able to utilize some of these funds to pay for an existing counselor or social worker that way. We are working with local law enforcement, the FBI, working on active shooter drills. I'm not going to say a whole lot about that now. That's in the planning, but it is a multi-organizational effort, and we understand that this is really going to take us a year. We're going to work with all staff. We're going to work with all students to make sure that we are all up to date and up to speed on what our procedures and processes are within the district. So that's something that we will be looking at. I've had the questioner, Dr. Schaefer, are we gonna get some database for mental health or SEL? And my answer is no. I'm looking at how we may utilize those funds to already bolster the resources that we use to work with our kids on a daily basis, like our social workers or our school counselors. And we'll have more on that, but I just wanted to provide that update because that is something that I've been getting questions on, and I want to make sure that we can speak to that. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. The next part of our meeting would be for public comment. Normally, we ask you to fill out a card with your name and so on, but I think we have 3 people here. Mr. Sheehan is a regular. I'm not sure you, at this point, Mr. Sheehan, you even have to sign in. So, please.
I have to sign in?
No.
No.
No. I said I'm not sure you have to. We do ask for staying to about 3 minutes, though, of course.
Pardon?
We do ask you to stay to about 3 minutes in your discussion.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to bring up, so I'll talk about that first. Okay, my name's Tom Sheehan. I live in Waverly, and you just mentioned a 3-minute timing practice that we have. You know, if you get a room full of people and half of them want to get up here and talk, I certainly understand. You know, you got to put some controls on it. You can't have half a room of people talking all night. But I mean, there's 3 of us here. I'm not even sure the other 2 even want to talk. So if you could, you know, bend a little on this 3-minute rule, I'd appreciate it.
We certainly do bend a little bit as it is, and what we try to do is be consistent across all of our meetings. I recognize we only have 3 people talking.
Well, I understand, but sometimes...
And what we try to ask is to make sure people have their thoughts together and so on when they talk.
I have my
so they're
thoughts
most
together,
effective.
but
And you do.
sometimes it takes a little more than 3 minutes to really make the point. All right, the last time I stepped to this microphone, it was to speak about and to make you aware of a news item I came across that the federal government was about to create a requirement for, I guess you call it gender identity and sexual orientation in schools, and requiring that schools that get funding for lunches create this standard within the schools. Well, at the time, I wasn't sure. I thought, this is crazy. and I wasn't sure it was going to actually occur. But now we have 22 states attorneys general who have filed suit, so I guess it is true. And according to this statement here, the third paragraph here in the first line, the states complained that a federal non-discrimination rule set to take effect August 15th. I don't know if you heard anything about it. 22 states are suing President Joe Biden's administration for threatening to zap school meal program funding unless the states comply with new rules surrounding gender identity and sexual orientation in schools. Down to the fourth paragraph, the Biden administration's sweeping rhetoric treats normal practices such as sex-separated bathrooms and athletics as quote unquote discriminatory, even though the Department of Justice and the Department of Education treated those as legal non-discriminatory practices as recently as last year, the suit says. A fact sheet about the proposed policy cited examples of discriminatory acts as interpreted by bureaucrats. There's that key word, bureaucrats. The United States of America is no longer a constitutional republic. We're a bureaucratic ideology. The executive branch, with all of its agencies and departments, has taken the three parts of government, legislative, executive, and judicial, unto itself. And they now issue rules which have the effect of laws, which is, according to our Constitution, only be supposed to be produced by legislatures. And here we have executive departments creating rules like confetti down there in Washington, and this is one of them. I mean, this talk about harebrained. This is ridiculous. Preventing a transgender high school girl that is a biological male from using the girls' restroom and preventing a transgender high school girl, a biological male, from trying out for girls' cheerleading team, the lawsuit refers to. And I asked previously if in the Abington Heights school districts, if boys were using girls' bathrooms or locker rooms or showers, and I was told no, they're not. I hope that's the truth. On the second page at the bottom paragraph is a list of the 22 states that are a part of this suit. It imposes, and on the next page of the third paragraph, it imposes new and unlawful regulatory measures on state agencies and operators receiving federal financial assistance from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the inevitable result is regulatory chaos that would threaten the effective provision of essential nutritional service to some of our most vulnerable citizens. Last page, first paragraph, the last few lines. The controversial changes did not go through Congress. This is not a law. This is a rule issued by an executive agency. Instead, federal agencies created them under an executive order that the President issued in January 2021, requiring policies that would fight discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation. I'm asking, and I would like an answer at some point, when this happens, August 15th, what does the Abington Heights School District intend to do? What do you intend to do?
And do you have more to say, or you?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm waiting to see, I'm waiting for some kind of a response.
This is what I can tell you, Mr. Sheehan. I think almost a year ago there was a Supreme Court case. Some have described it as landmark, and the Supreme Court at that time found that gender identity and sexual orientation discrimination violations are covered under Title IX. So this is something that happened over a year ago, around a year ago, and schools had to respond to that. And I can tell you that we have had, to my understanding, and I will double check with you, what I would consider to be a unisex bathroom. So if somebody wanted to use a private bathroom, they could, and that would be available for everyone. Regarding the SNAP funds, I haven't heard anything or seen anything that will result in funds being taken away from us. When I read about the Supreme Court case, I am not seeing or hearing any cases where we are discriminating against any children based on their sexual orientation or identity, or staff.
These agencies, these executive agencies, you know, the expression is, if the definition doesn't fit your agenda, change the definition. Well, the definition of sexual orientation has changed. Title IX says, yes, understandably, boys are boys, girls are girls. But within the past year, at least, this definition of Title IX sexual identification has changed to include people who decide, biological males who decide they want to be females. And ostensibly, although I've never heard of it, biological females who decide they want to be males. That's not what, you know, the reference you're making to that Supreme Court ruling was under the old Title IX definition of what male and female is. But these agencies are changing the definition. That's what I'm saying. These agencies, these bureaucratic agencies, unelected, unnamed, unfaced people are sitting down there in Washington or wherever they are, writing rules, writing laws, and you people are following along. You're doing what they're telling you to do. For God's sake, stand up. Stop this nonsense. Anybody with an ounce of sense can look at what's going on and say, this is not right. It isn't. And if it's just for the money, forget the money. You know, I'll volunteer. I'll volunteer to teach for nothing. Just forget the money.
Okay, anyone else? Please come forward.
Hi, good evening. My name's Tara Houlihan. I was just wondering, do you have a paper agenda for tonight?
Yes.
Okay. I'll
That's my bad. I thought they were extra. I've got them laying on the table down there. I forgot to get.
Okay. So my one concern was that last night, I know you're supposed to post the agenda within 24 hours. And what happens is when it's not, like last night at 8:30, myself and some friends, we were trying to look at it to review it, and it wasn't there till this morning, as far as I could tell. And I'm just wondering, it's just very hard as a mom trying to do everything to go take the time to read the agenda if I only have a few hours to do it. So I was able to somewhat read it. And the one concern, I just had some question, was on the contract that you are going to vote on tonight, the Edmonton contract for $6,400. Could you tell me a little bit about that, what that is?
Sure. It is our cyber solution.
Okay.
So we have a few families.
Okay.
I would tell you that we probably have under 5 students
Okay.
that take advantage of that. So they want to engage in a cyber education.
Okay.
for the most part, I think we've had more students coming back over the last 2 years. And that would be in contrast to, hey, Abington Heights, you don't have a solution, so we're going to go to a cyber charter school.
Right.
And we feel as if we can put something together, and in some cases, we work with families where they may be coming in for a couple courses and then taking some cyber for a variety of reasons.
Okay.
And Edmentum is a contractor that we worked with last year, and they are at a price point that makes sense, in contrast to some that are very expensive and offer programming that is not as quality.
Okay, because there is no curriculum, but I'm assuming if you were a parent and thinking of doing it, you would get the curriculum and be able to review it.
We get to see it, yes. In
Okay.
fact, we can even tailor that, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was my only comment. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? Okay. In that case, let's move on to the action and discussion items. Personnel report.
Mr. Ackert, ask the board consider for approval the personnel report numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So moved. Second.
On the motion. Dr. Schaefer, just a couple quick questions. The appointments, certified appointments, those are all replacements, or are they new positions?
Those are replacements. Those are, we have some staff members that are out either for the entire year, part of a year, and we're just working to get someone in for them.
Okay. And then EDR positions, I noticed they are all involved with the website building. And can you just talk a little bit about their role as a building manager or the website leader and how that process is going to happen, please?
Sure. During the course of this year, we put a survey out and we talked to our families about what they wanted from us. And what came out loud and clear was more transparent and consistent communication. And specifically, when we drilled down, we started to talk a little bit about the website and how difficult it is to navigate. We went through an evaluation period, and you'll probably recall our technology committee committing to a new website, which actually saved us money because it has a messenger service within it that we'll be utilizing instead of Remind. And what we'll be doing is putting out more clear and consistent and what I would call intuitive points for receiving information. During the course of this evaluation, what we found is we just really didn't have a solid structure to manage the information. Manage the information coming from within the schools to post onto the website, managing the information on the website either to remove, revise in some way, shape, or form. So what we did is we talked with our teachers and some of our members of the technology committee, and we decided that what we needed to do was have a central person in charge of that, responsible for that. That helped with our professional development, make sure that that person was well-versed in everything that was going on in all the different sites within that website. And then secondly, what we wanted to do was have a building manager so that information from that school could go to the manager. That person could vet it against the procedures that we have in place. So we don't want to put up information that's erroneous. We don't want to put up information that's not timely. So we put this together, we put some EDRs out there, and that's how we landed on this.
Perfect, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Medensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
6 yes.
And I will take a moment too. I mentioned this at the last board meeting, and it's worth it again because I know that we have a consistent group of folks that come here. And Tara, I tell you that in a few months, one of the software packages, platforms that is going to be put onto the website will be board docs. And we're going to have to do a little bit of professional learning on our half. But what that'll mean to our families and our students and our teachers is that they can more easily access all of our board reports, contracts, board policies. There's also a really nice search engine within that. So if you're looking for something specific, you don't have to go through 3 years of board agendas trying to find, say, a name of a contract or person. You'll be able to search that. So it's fairly intuitive, and that goes to what I mentioned before. We need to be forthright. We need to be transparent. We need to provide that information quickly. I just ask that you. I'm asking people to change a lot of things. So I just, we know that we need to get up to speed with the website and then up to speed with board docs. And what follows that is our revision of policies, which will probably take 2 years, because those policies will go through our policy committee. And these are the types of things that we need to get caught up on. That said, Mr. Ackert asks that the board consider a motion to approve the contract between Abington Heights School District and Ed Mendham as contained in item 1.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Budensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
6 yes.
Mr. Ackert asks the board consider a motion to approve the following Abington Heights student handbooks: the elementary in item 2, middle school 3, and high school 4.
So moved.
Second.
On the motion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Budensky,
Yes.
Mr. Robeson,
Yes.
Mr. Azar,
Yes.
Mrs. Henderson,
Yes.
Mrs. Karam,
Yes.
Mr. Acker.
Yes.
6 yes.
Next item on our agenda is informational. I don't believe we have any committee reports. So I'd ask, is there any new business? Old business? We have another, again, session for public comment. Being no further public comment, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Very good. Thank you all.
Thank you.